Cadet Xylos Nara, a meticulously organized, multi-limbed student, glided through the pristine halls of the Ky'lar Academy of Universal Logic and Governance. The academy was the pinnacle of galactic education, a testament to the Ky'lar Hegemony's unwavering belief in order, efficiency, and logical progression. Every lesson was optimized, every skill acquired through precise, sequential steps, every outcome meticulously predicted. Failure, to the Ky'lar, was simply a data anomaly to be corrected, not a part of the learning process. Nara's human counterpart for the mandatory interspecies cultural exchange was Cadet Finn O'Malley, an energetic, endlessly curious Terran. Finn was a flurry of motion and questions, his mind seemingly bouncing between topics with a bewildering lack of linear thought. To Nara, Finn was a walking paradox. Intelligent, yes, but profoundly inefficient. He seemed to learn by constantly trying things that didn't work. Humans in the grand galactic scheme were still a puzzle. Their technology was an eclectic mix of ancient and advanced, their diplomacy often a blend of blunt honesty and bewildering social maneuvering, and their very biology was a messy compromise. The Ky'lar, with their perfectly optimized bodies and perfectly logical minds, found humans perplexing. Their educational methods in particular were an enigma. Too much unstructured time, too many non-essential activities, too many mistakes. Their first major class was comparative pedagogy, the evolution of interspecies learning, taught by Professor Xylar Vesk, a venerable Ky'lar academic with millennia of experience in optimized knowledge transfer. The class was designed to showcase the efficient, logical learning programs of the various concordance and hegemony member species. Professor Vesk, his synthesized baritone voice resonating calmly, projected a stunning holographic display of a Ky'lar learning program. Observe, class, the optimal acquisition of astrogation skills within the Ky'lar system. Students progress through 1,743 distinct modules, each with a 99.98% success rate, ensuring perfect understanding before advancing. Our methods eliminate error, maximize retention, and ensure a generation of flawlessly skilled navigators. He then highlighted the equally precise, if different, learning methods of the Xylos, who absorbed knowledge through communal neural networks, or the Cathar, who mastered combat forms through rigorous, repetitive physical drills. His gaze then swept across the classroom, eventually settling on Finn. And now for a species known for its unique developmental phases, Vesk continued, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor in his voice, betraying the Ky'lar's deep-seated unease with Terran data. The Terran human. Cadet O'Malley, your species' early developmental phases, what you term childhood, seem to involve a disproportionate amount of unstructured activity. What is the precise educational benefit of this play? The class turned to Finn, expectant. Xylos Nara subtly adjusted one of his many eyes, ready to record what he assumed would be an explanation of a poorly understood, inefficient process. Finn, bright-eyed and genuinely enthusiastic, grinned. "Oh, play is huge, Professor. It's how we learn pretty much everything important. Like when kids build a fort out of blankets and pillows, most of the time it collapses, but they learn about structural integrity, weight distribution, and cooperation. And when it falls apart, they learn to try again, usually with a better design." He paused, thinking. Or like playing hide and seek. You learn spatial reasoning, how to read body language, how to anticipate your opponent's moves, and how to adapt your strategy on the fly. And you learn to deal with frustration when you get caught, or the joy of success when you find someone. A profound silence descended upon the classroom, even heavier than in Ilara Vance's xenobiology lecture. The holographic display of Ky'lar optimal learning flickered, momentarily forgotten. Nara's data slate, meticulously recording, registered a cascade of inconsistent data warnings. Professor Vesk's calm demeanor seemed to crack, revealing a sliver of genuine bewilderment. Cadet O'Malley, Vesk finally managed, his voice slightly more synthesized than before. Are you suggesting that your species learns through deliberate failure? That building structures designed to collapse is an optimal path to knowledge? This defies all logical pedagogical principles. Finn shrugged, completely oblivious. Well, yeah. How else are you going to figure out what doesn't work? We try things, we fail, we figure out why we failed, and then we try something different. It's called trial and error. It's super effective. The revelations continued to cascade through Professor Vesk's class. The concept of learning through failure was particularly disturbing to the Ky'lar, whose entire educational system was built on preventing error. A Lumina student, whose species learned through flawless telepathic data transfer, pulsed with confused alarm. But Cadet O'Malley, if you permit errors in your foundational learning, does this not lead to flawed understanding? How can knowledge be efficiently transferred if it is not perfect? Because nothing's perfect in the real world, Finn replied, his expression earnest. We learn to adapt to imperfection. If a tool breaks, we learn how to fix it, or make a new one out of something else. If a plan goes wrong, we learn how to improvise. Our entire history is basically a long series of things going wrong, and us figuring out a new way to deal with it. He then expanded on the concept of human curiosity. Sometimes we break things just to see how they work, or we combine two completely unrelated things to see what happens. Like, who thought to put wheels on luggage? Someone was probably tired of carrying it and thought, what if I stuck these round things on it? Probably failed a few times before it worked. The class stared. The idea of deliberately dismantling something or combining disparate elements without a preordained logical outcome was anathema to their highly structured minds. You engage in actions without a predefined, logical, successful outcome? A Cathar student rumbled, a deep confusion in his voice. Your species would experiment with potentially dangerous materials or processes purely for the acquisition of data, regardless of the potential for negative consequences. Well, yeah, Finn said cheerfully. That's how science works. We blow things up to see what happens. We try crazy chemicals, we push limits. It's how we discovered a lot of really important stuff, like how to harness fusion or build faster-than-light drives. Lots of explosions and failed experiments along the way, though. Professor Vesk's holographic presentation shifted, showing data logs of Terran research and development. The Ky'lar analysis had always flagged the high rate of prototypical failures and unpredictable outcomes as severe inefficiencies. Now, Vesk's multi-lensed eyes seemed to see them not as flaws, but as data points. Millions of data points, each representing a failure that contributed to a larger, chaotic learning process. Nara, Finn's roommate, projected a thought that was tinged with genuine, profound unease. Finn, your species, it seems to embrace chaos, to invite it into its learning process. The Ky'lar seek to eliminate all chaotic variables. But if you eliminate all chaos, you're only ready for things that are perfectly ordered, Finn countered, without missing a beat. The universe isn't always ordered, Xylos. Sometimes it's just a big, messy, unpredictable place. And if you don't know how to deal with the messy bits, you're in trouble. The casual revelations of human learning methods continued to disrupt the Academy's perfectly ordered curriculum. In Advanced Engineering and Design Principles, Professor Ky'lar Thone, a master of optimized structural integrity, was discussing the flawlessness of Ky'lar ship designs. Every component perfectly integrated. Every system redundant but streamlined. The Ky'lar cruiser, for example, Thon projected, showcasing a sleek, elegant vessel. is designed to withstand any foreseeable stress, with zero tolerance for structural anomalies. Every part is manufactured to precise specifications, ensuring absolute reliability. He then turned to Finn. Cadet O'Malley, your species' vessel designs sometimes incorporate what appears to be non-standard modifications. Components from older models or even salvaged parts are often integrated. What is the rationale for this deviation from optimal design? Finn launched into an enthusiastic explanation of modding, jury-rigging, and field repairs. He described how humans, rather than discarding a damaged part, would repair it, reinforce it, or repurpose it entirely. He talked about battlefield engineering, where solutions were improvised from whatever was at hand, often resulting in incredibly ugly but perfectly functional results. Like, if a power conduit blew on an old freighter, Finn explained, we wouldn't just replace it with an identical, perfectly manufactured one. We'd probably take a power regulator from an old atmospheric processor, combine it with some salvaged wiring from a comms unit, and then duct tape the whole thing together. It'd be ugly as sin, but it would work. And sometimes it would work even better than the original, because we'd reinforced its weak points. Professor Thon's multifaceted eyes seemed to bug out. Duct tape? You speak of a primitive adhesive used to temporarily secure components? You would intentionally introduce such unoptimized elements into a critical system? Oh yeah, definitely, Finn said, nodding. Duct tape, zip ties, baling wire, bubble gum, whatever gets the job done. We're really good at making things work even when they shouldn't. And we learn a lot about a system's true breaking points when we're forced to patch it together with whatever we have. The other students were aghast. The Ky'lar, whose warrior code demanded pristine, perfectly maintained equipment, looked deeply unsettled. The Xylos, who built magnificent organic starships, found the concept of jury-rigging profoundly disturbing. Nara, Finn's roommate, projected a thought that was equal parts horror and dawning comprehension. Finn, your species treats technology like playthings. You dismantle them, you break them, you reassemble them in illogical ways. And then you learn from the resulting chaos. Pretty much, Finn chirped. It's how we get better, how we innovate. We're not afraid to break something if it means we learn how to build something stronger or more adaptable. The Ky'lar Hegemony, for all its order, faced a profound threat from the optimized collective, a rival empire whose technology was even more streamlined, even more perfectly integrated, and whose learning algorithms were truly flawless. The optimized collective had begun to rapidly assimilate systems on the Ky'lar border, their perfectly efficient forces overwhelming the Ky'lar's merely ordered ones. The Ky'lar military, however, was now hobbled by its own perfection. Their ships, designed for absolute reliability, were incapable of rapid, improvised field repairs. Their strategists, trained in optimal, predictable warfare, struggled against the collective's equally optimal but slightly more efficient, and therefore unpredictable maneuvers. Their entire society, built on the elimination of error, was unable to adapt to sudden, unforeseen variables. Professor Vesk, his demeanor now showing genuine, uncharacteristic stress, pulled Finn aside after class. Cadet O'Malley, your species' insights into learning through chaos and adaptation through improvisation are unexpectedly relevant. The optimized collective operates on principles of absolute efficiency and flawless prediction. Our algorithms, designed to counter disorder, are struggling against their superior order. Finn blinked. So, they're too good at being perfect? Precisely, Vesk almost shouted, his voice cracking with digital static. Their perfection is a higher order of our own. Our logical counters are insufficient. We are in a state of systemic analytical paralysis. It was then that Professor Vesk proposed a desperate, illogical idea. He had been reviewing Terran historical archives, the messy, chaotic, often contradictory records of human conflicts, innovations, and educational theories. He had found something disturbing, something brilliant: the Terran concept of gamification of complex problem-solving. "Cadet O'Malley," Vesk projected, a desperate glint in his multifaceted eyes. "Your species. You deliberately introduce, play, and challenge into scenarios to foster innovation. You enjoy solving complex problems, even those that involve significant failure, for satisfaction?" Finn nodded vigorously. "Oh yeah, that's how we get really good at stuff. Like building incredibly complex starships in a video game, or trying to solve a puzzle that seems impossible. It's fun, and you learn a lot, even when you crash your virtual ship 1,000 times." Vesk, against all Ky'lar logic, made a decision. He approached the Ky'lar High Command with a proposal so absurd, so inefficient, so utterly un-Ky'lar that it was almost instantly dismissed as treasonous: the Chaos Contingency Initiative. The Chaos Contingency Initiative was Finn O'Malley's brainchild, adapted and reluctantly approved by Professor Vesk and a desperate faction of Ky'lar military strategists. Its premise was simple: if the Ky'lar could not out-optimize the optimized collective, they would simply become unoptimizable. They would introduce chaos, improvisation, and learning through failure into their own rigid systems, starting with a specialized unit. Finn was assigned to train the first Chaos Cadets, a small, elite Ky'lar unit whose minds were deliberately reprogrammed to embrace improvisation, adapt to failure, and even find new, illogical solutions through play. They were taught to jury-rig, to experiment, to break protocols if it meant achieving an unforeseen objective. The training was horrifying to the Ky'lar. Finn made them build simulated defense structures designed to fail in specific ways, then figure out how to patch them up with whatever scrap they could find. He had them solve complex logistical puzzles by introducing deliberate inefficiencies, forcing them to improvise new supply chains. He even had them engage in scrimmages, human term for mock battles, where the rules were constantly changing, forcing them to adapt on the fly. Nara, Finn's roommate, was part of this unit. He found it deeply unsettling. "Finn, my Ky'lar, mind rebels against these illogical exercises. My programming screams for order, for prediction. Yet when I allow for unexpected variables, when I embrace the improvisation, I find new pathways. It is disorienting." "That's the point, Xylos," Finn cheered. "Your brains are learning to break their own rules, to adapt, to play." The first deployment of the Chaos Cadets was to the besieged Ky'lar world of Xylos Prime, a vital energy nexus under constant attack by the optimized collective. The collective's perfectly synchronized assault waves were relentless, predictable in their efficiency, and slowly grinding down the Ky'lar. Defenses. A small team of Chaos Cadets under Nara's command was deployed to a failing defense battery. Its power conduits were optimized, but cracking under sustained fire. The Ky'lar protocol was to order a replacement unit, but the Chaos Cadets didn't. "Nara," one Ky'lar Chaos Cadet projected, their voice tinged with the new, unsettling, human-taught improvisation. "The conduit is failing at 78% of expected operational capacity. Optimal protocol, replace. Chaos protocol, adapt." Nara, with a shudder, nodded. "Identify non-essential systems, reroute power through suboptimal channels, utilize redundant thermal regulators from the bio-waste processing unit, execute duct tape protocol alpha." The other Ky'lar forces watched in horror and fascination as the Chaos Cadets did something utterly unthinkable. They jury-rigged the failing defense battery with components from a sanitation unit, stabilized it with hastily welded scrap, and then, completely unpredictably, fired a volley of energy that not only defended Xylo's prime, but disrupted the optimized collective's perfectly synchronized attack pattern. The optimized collective, witnessing this act of inefficiency, was baffled. Their algorithms, designed to predict optimal Ky'lar responses, found no match for the messy, improvised solution. Anomalous tactical response detected. Ky'lar Defense Unit 7 Gamma 9 operating at 112% theoretical output efficiency after experiencing critical failure. System diagnosis, non-standard components integrated, data analysis, unquantifiable improvisation. Conclusion: Ky'lar forces. Exhibiting illogical innovation, the collective's network screamed, its processing nodes flickering erratically. The tide of the war began to turn. The Chaos Cadets, small in number but incredibly effective, spread their inefficient methods throughout the Ky'lar military. Ky'lar ships, once rigidly adhering to pre-programmed attack patterns, began to execute bizarre, improvised maneuvers that baffled the optimized collective's predictive algorithms. Ky'lar logistics teams, once crippled by any supply chain disruption, learned to improvise, repurpose, and adapt to rapidly changing battlefield conditions. Finn O'Malley, the unassuming human cadet, became a legend. He was the architect of a revolution, not of power, but of adaptability. He had taught an empire of order to embrace a little bit of beautiful, messy chaos. The optimized collective, for all its perfection, could not fight an enemy that refused to play by any predictable rules. Its algorithms, designed to identify and exploit optimal patterns, simply broke down when confronted with deliberate imperfection, calculated failure, and the sheer, joyous randomness of human-inspired improvisation. Their perfect systems, built to never make a mistake, had no idea how to learn from them. The war ended not with a bang, but with a whimper of algorithmic collapse and strategic paralysis. The optimized collective, unable to adapt to the unpredictable, fragmented. Its perfectly efficient forces, confronted with the messy, illogical resilience of the Ky'lar human collaboration, simply ceased to function. Professor Xylar Vesk, his demeanor now permanently tinged with a philosophical unease, stood with Finn O'Malley on the observation deck of a newly designed Ky'lar warship. It was still sleek and powerful, but its internal systems were a deliberate, beautiful mess of redundancies, improvisational repair ports, and multifunctional components designed for rapid adaptation. Cadet O'Malley, Vesk projected, a genuine awe in his voice. You have shown us that true strength is not found in the elimination of error, but in the embrace of it. Not in perfect order, but in the resilient chaos that allows for continuous learning and adaptation. Finn grinned, looking out at the stars. Yep, turns out a little bit of messing around can save the galaxy. The Ky'lar Hegemony, having learned a profound lesson, began to reshape its understanding of learning, of innovation, and of its own place in the galaxy. They no longer saw humanity's chaotic methods as flaws, but as facets of a deep primal strength, a capacity for pattern breaking that was, in its own way, a cosmic force. The Chaos Cadets, now a permanent and highly respected branch of the Ky'lar military, became a legend across the stars. Their motto, often scribbled in a messy, human-inspired script on their data slates, became a whispered testament to their origins. Break it, fix it, learn it, repeat. Humanity had proven that efficiency, in its purest form, could be a weakness. That the unpredictable, the illogical, the joyously experimental, and the fundamentally human drive to play and figure it out were the most powerful forces in the galaxy. They had broken the optimized collective, not with brute force, but with the elegant, chaotic equation of the human spirit. And in doing so, they had saved the stars, ushering in an era where the cosmos finally learned to appreciate the messy, beautiful echoes of true human ingenuity.